and welcome to the YouTube channel. In today's video, I'll be recapping my June reads. So in the month of June, we basically stuck to our TBR, which I feel like we've been doing a really good job of most of this year. I'm not fully done, but I'm also recording this on the 27th. I wanted to make sure I record this on like a weekend day, so I have plenty of time to film it, but also like edit it before it goes up on Wednesday. So I technically still have like 4-ish days left in the rest of the month. And I do think I can finish our last two since I'm halfway through one. And then the other one is the smallest book that ends up on our TBR. So I do think I can get through all 8. But right now we've only read 6. So this will be a little bit shorter of a wrap up for us. So the first book that I got into in the month of June was The Arachnid. This one's by Ivy Ophelia, and it is the sequel to The Poisoner. So in this one, not to like spoil The Poisoner, but like spoiler alert. In this one, we are following our two main characters from The Poisoner, Alina and Silas, but we are in a bit of a time jump and we are in a new setting. So first book is set in London in the late 1800s. And this one is set, I think, 2 whole years later in like the Buffalo, New York area. So we're having similar things, but it's also like a little bit different. We're having like new problems arise from the vampiric creatures that they're facing. So overall, I gave this one 4.75 stars. Even though it doesn't suffer from that like middle book syndrome where it feels like nothing's really happening, I do think that this book's main intention is to set up the next book. Like we kind of resolve some stuff from the first book, but like Alina's still being super stubborn and like is not resolving anything. Um, and then we're also being introduced to lots of other like side characters and like setting up some new things that I think are going to like get fully fleshed out and resolved in book 3. So I'm super excited for book 3. It's called The Cannibal, and I think it comes out later this year. But overall, really enjoyed this one. Really liked it. There was a little bit of a lull in the middle, and I think that that is as close to second book syndrome as this series is going to like have. I do think that it was just a little bit of a like there wasn't any action happening and that got a little boring, but it immediately picked back up after like 2 chapters of like nothing really. And it also is a little bit like a like holiday special. If I'm being completely honest, it's like set around Christmassy time. So maybe it was my fault for picking to read it in June, but I didn't know it was going to be Christmas time. So that was my bad, but overall I had a really good time with this one. Okay, so the next book that I ended up picking up in the month of June was Wild and Wrangled. This one is the 4th book in the Rebel Blue Ranch series. And in this one, we are following Camille and Dusty. It's a second chance romance. So we are seeing a couple of flashbacks to like their high school days. And then we're kind of seeing like what led to them, like getting back together kind of. I really enjoyed this one. I gave it a 5 stars. I think it's my second favorite in the series only because of all of the tie-ins and how we get to see like everyone else from the first 3 books. I really enjoyed that in Lost and Lassoed. We are obviously seeing, like Teddy coming into like dealing with all of her friends' lives changing. In this one, we're kind of also seeing that same thing happening with Camille, where she thought she'd be at a certain place after finishing law school and she's not. But overall, I really enjoyed this one. I didn't love the third act breakup, but I also didn't hate it as much as I think I've heard a lot of people dislike it. Like I think most of the reviews I saw were like knocking their score down because of the third act breakup. I didn't love it, but I also didn't hate it that much. It was just kind of like, oh, okay, yeah, there's gonna be a conflict right now. Like, of course. So overall, really enjoyed this one. Glad to be done with the Blue Rebel Ranch series, so I can move on to Lila Sage's new series that starts with Soul Searching. So that'll probably be the next book of hers I pick up. Okay, so the next book that I ended up picking up in the month of June was Play You For It. This one is by Samantha Saldivar. And I ended up giving this one a 4.75. I really enjoyed it. We are following the first Division One male basketball coach that is a female. So she's a girl coaching like some college guys. I really enjoyed those side characters. They were a lot more interesting than I thought they were going to be. But there's also a lot of side characters because it's like a whole basketball team. And so like homegirl, she's trying to like form these connections with her players and stuff. And it just felt like a lot of keeping up with. And so in this book, she ends up like falling for a girl who's reporting on her story of being the first female Division One men's basketball coach. And so I really enjoyed that. I feel like their like problems and issues felt really real. But the one thing that I did not love is that it felt very like insta lust. Like we're getting both POVs in different chapters, but it's third person. And so we'd like be in the coach's head and she would like see the reporter and think she's like immediately hot and like be super attracted to her. And then the female reporter obviously is like, this is her subject, but she's also like mentioning on like, I like her freckles. And it was one of those things that like, I think that like maybe it was supposed to like clue us into like they both were like into each other, but it felt a lot like, oh, lesbians are just attracted to everyone that they see. And Beck, our reporter, is like bisexual, and so she like has to like explore her sexuality with like her roommate and come out to her family and like basically like explain to them like how she feels. And it kind of felt a little forced that this is like the first girl that's made her feel the need to do that. Because I feel like she mentions having like tried stuff in college, but never like telling people about it. And then now she's like meeting this coach, and that's like changing how she feels. I did not love that aspect of the storyline. Is it felt a little bit like, I don't know. I don't know how to explain it. But it just felt a little like awkward and forced that like this one relationship is the one that's like making her like risk everything. But overall, I think that their problems were really real, since obviously it's a conflict of interest as like a sports journalist to be in a relationship with someone that you're covering. And then obviously this coach doesn't want any more press than what she's already getting for being a female coach of a men's sport. So overall, I really enjoyed this one. I liked the pacing of it a lot, even though it did feel a little bit like insta lusty with them like thinking the other one was hot. Like they did end up starting out as like friends. They did end up like conducting like a really good interview. They did end up like hanging out outside of their interview a little bit before like any like action happened. I didn't love how the smut was written. I will be honest with that. Like it was a little awkward. I think maybe it's because it was in third person, so it was just like a lot of she. Like that's the only word you can really use unless you're going to name them by name every time you're describing what someone's doing. And so I think that it just got a little like drawn out because of the same word being used over and over. Like there's no other pronouns that we can use. So I think that was just like my biggest gripe with it, but overall, I really enjoyed it. I like the resolution. We do have an epilogue that is a couple years later, so we are able to see kind of like where they're going. And I know that there is another book by this author set in the same world, but I believe it's tennis or pickleball. I can't remember. But I do kind of want to pick that up just because I did enjoy her writing style. After playing for it, I was feeling fantasy, so I picked up Rights of the Starling. I ended up giving this one 5 stars. I absolutely adored it. Very similar to Shield of Sparrows, where our FMC is kind of like learning more about her own world. But we also are getting a different like story in this book. I had to like Google who is Caspia because I thought that she was a character in the first book that I just forgot about. No, Caspia is a completely new character. We're following a completely new kind of like side story that does have a lot to do with Odessa and what's going on in the current like timeline, but it also is not like the main thing. In this one, we are picking up right where Shield of Sparrows left off. So Odessa's kind of reeling from the way that that book concluded. She's kind of trying to figure out how to like get reunited with Ransom and like exploring like this world that she is not used to. So she ends up being with one of the like priest people that they like have in their world, and she's very like uneasy around them. She doesn't trust them. She's like susceptible to their magic and stuff. And so we kind of figure out reasonings for why all those things are happening, as well as why the like monsters are attacking. We get a lot of those answers from Caspia's story. So it's very important to read both of them, even though I was very confused on who Caspia was. We end up loving Caspia in the end. She's great. So this one kind of brings together like what all is going on and really sets up the last book. The only thing that I'm worried about is I do not know how we only have one book left in this trilogy. Like it's a trilogy. The author has said it's a trilogy. I don't know how we're going to finish this in one book. Like I'm getting scared. That book's going to have to be beefy as hell. I'm thinking like 800 pages like to do the story that I think is going to end up happening. We're going to need a lot of paper. So overall, love this book. Definitely didn't have any ounce of middle book syndrome in this book, like at all. I thought that every page was used perfectly. We needed all this information. So I really enjoyed this one. And now we get to the letdown of the month. And that is Ali Hazelwood's Problematic Summer Romance. Unfortunately, I really was not a fan of this one. So it obviously still has, Ali Hazelwood's humor. It still has her banter and her wits. And so like it was still like overall a good story. I really, really did not like the MMC. Our male main character is Connor, and he kind of just sucks. Like he literally is just like one of the worst people I think ever put to page, if I'm being honest. So in this book, we are following Maya, who is Eli from Not in Love's little sister. They have a pretty big age gap. I believe it's like 14 years or so. And so he's kind of protective over her. He ended up raising her after their parents passed away. And so Maya has always been like Eli's little sister. And Maya reaches out to Eli's company when she's studying abroad. She does a couple of like years abroad at college in Edinburgh. And so she reaches out to Eli's company to try to reach him when she's going through a really bad breakup. He can't pick up. And Connor is like one of the co founders of Eli's company. And so Connor knows of Maya and thinks of her as like a child. But he assumes that when she's calling, she's like their customer, like needing like help and wanting to talk to someone at the company. So he calls back and is like, hey, this is Connor, and like I'm gonna solve all your problems. And she's like, yeah, like it's Maya. I want to talk to my brother. And he realizes that she's like in distress. And he's like, oh, I can like help you. And so he ends up coming to Edinburgh and convincing Maya's like ex-boyfriend that they are actually like secret lovers, and he's always had a thing for her deep down, and like all of this stuff to like make him jealous. And that starts a very interesting friendship between Maya and Connor, where Maya like is super into him. Like she's just down bad. She wants to be with him. They're like friends, but she's always had like this bit of an inkling of a crush. And Connor also really likes her. He likes spending time with her. He thinks she's super smart, all of these things. But he refuses to date her because he thinks that she's too young to make choices for herself. And that was my problem. Like the whole book, he's literally just telling her she's too young to decide anything for herself. And he's an adult and he should not be chasing this child. I mean, granted, she's like 23 in the book. So like it's a big age gap. And like at 23, yeah, you're gonna make some mistakes. But also like I literally have never met a straight white man who is as cognizant of a power imbalance as Connor is. Literally, no white man in his 30s is aware of a power imbalance when they're dating a 20-year-old. I mean, I would argue that most men in their 40s and 50s aren't either. Men are only aware of power imbalances when it's their own daughters entering those relationships most of the time. So for Connor's main like personality trait to be, I'm abusing you, that was wild. That was unbelievable. I literally couldn't fathom it. Also, I don't know what the hell was going on with the writing in this book, but I genuinely think that Allie challenged herself to see how many times she could write problematic in one book. Because it was like every other paragraph, the word problematic was there. Everyone was describing everything as problematic. It was crazy. Because it gets extra messy because they're on this island for Eli and Rue's wedding. So the couple from Not in Love. We have appearances from the couple from Deep End, as well as like mentions of the couple in Love theoretically. So we're mentioning everybody and talking about everybody in Allie Hazelwood's universe, which is great, and I loved it. But like their story was so insanely messy because not only is Connor there because obviously he's, like Eli's best friend, but the other founder of their company, who is Connor's ex girlfriend, she's there. Connor's ex stepmom is also there, and she's super young. She's like a couple years older than Connor. And she's posed as like a rival for Maya, as if she's going to be going for Connor, her ex stepson. Like she doesn't, but that's posed as it. We also have another character introduced named Avery, and she was in a romantic relationship with Connor when he was trying to get over Maya. And so it just felt like Connor had 95 bitches chasing after him the whole book. And like, he's literally a mediocre white man. Why would that many women be after him? I don't get it. It made no sense. I really just did not. I couldn't get behind it. And I usually love like cutesy nicknames in books. Like, that's always so fun. Maya's nickname for Connor was Connor. Everyone else calls him his last name. They call him Hark. But like, she just called him his name. It was not fun. It was bad. It was terrible. I absolutely hated it. Not a good time. So yeah, would not recommend. I think we finally found the one Allie Hazelwood book I don't like, which is very sad and very unfortunate because I was really looking forward to this one. But like I said in my TBR video, she's announced that she's releasing some new ones. So fingers crossed the next Allie Hazelwood book I read is a winner and not problematic summer romance because it was bad. It was bad. Oh, I did also want to mention about Problematic Summer Romance. There is a character that is Maya's friend. I think her name's Neota. I want a book of her. She's great. She's amazing. We love her. That is all I will say. The next book that I ended up picking up in the month of June was The Princess Knight, and I'm giving this one 4.75 stars. I really, really enjoyed it. I think that it is like very true to the kind of like tagline and the way that it's marketed, and the fact that it is truly like a medieval Legally Blonde. Like it follows so many of those story beats, like not to a T, but like almost to a T. There's a couple of like small twists, and obviously you have to change a couple of things because it's very much like Legally Blonde is set in like the 21st century. So obviously we had to change like a couple of things to make it fit with the medieval timeline. But overall, I really enjoyed this book. I thought that it was like a great mix of being a retelling, but also like having a new story and introducing new characters and new elements. Because there are some characters that like seem like they will be similar to characters in Legally Blonde, and then they're not. There are like equivalents that are like spot on, and then there's other ones where it's like, oh yeah, like you're a little different. There was a lot of world building in this book, though. I will be honest. I think that a good chunk of the world building is like just to have it, which I'm usually not a big fan of in fantasy writing. I think you should only give the details that you need your audience to know, because if you're giving them more than they need to know, it becomes clunky stuff that they're just reading to read. And there was a little bit of it that I was like, okay, I don't really need this. Because really, at like the crux of it, it is about like three kind of kingdoms and how they kind of intersect with a rebel group, and how a rebel group might be like infiltrating their midst and like getting in. But we learn about all the other kingdoms for like no other point than to tell us that they exist. I think there's a map. Yeah, there's 5 kingdoms that we like talk about. We really only need to know 3 of them. And then like obviously there's like a map that goes over like where all of the countries kind of like are placed in relation to each other. And that's pretty great to like just have as a reference, but we're really only talking about a couple. We didn't need like all of it. So hopefully my hope is that like even though I do like the idea of a standalone fantasy, I do kind of hope that we get more books set in this world following other characters, maybe even like more slight remakes of other like classic 2000s rom-coms. I think that would be super iconic if we just make a bunch of rom-coms medieval themed. I think that would be super fun. And hopefully they'll be set in this world, so that's where all that world building and like background kind of comes in. Now we're going to get into my current read. I'm currently on The Parable of the Sower. I started this one I think on Monday or Tuesday, and I'm only like 120 pages in, 110. I'm only 110 pages in. I'm not gonna lie, this is like this is tough. Like I never want to say I understand why people don't want kids to read this. I'm never going to say that because I don't get it. I'm literally never going to say I understand why people want to ban a book because I think that's the stupidest thing ever. But I do kind of understand not wanting this to be fully a classroom book. I do understand, like, I don't imagine how you'd be able to even cover this full book in like a semester. Like that's how much like is going on here. And I also understand like you can't really like crop a bunch of it out because it's all really important stuff. But like I said, I'm only 100 pages in, and I'm like, bro, like this is gonna take months to dissect, like truly, to like get the lessons and the values that I know I should be getting out of it. Like I do think this is one of those books that you sit down with it and you are thinking about lots of things. So to kind of summarize and explain what's going on in Parable of the Sower, we're following our female main character Lauren, and she's 15, I believe, when the book starts. She celebrates her birthday. But she's 15 when the book starts, and we're in 2024 in a like super dystopian like hellscape. Like basically every neighborhood has to be like fenced in, and you only hang out with the people that are in like your fence because those are the only people that you know that are safe. Everyone else who is not associated with the neighborhood or is not in a fenced in kind of area is presumed to be like a hoodlum. They're presumed to be on drugs. They're presumed to be criminals. And everyone's basically just going around like shooting and robbing everybody all the time. Like it literally is terrifying. There are no real like societal structures in place, like to phrase it lightly. Like there's no school. Corey is Lauren's stepmom and she runs their equivalent of school, but like they don't have a structure. it's just like the younger kids learning about like writing and shapes, and then the older kids learning about like math and like basic science stuff and like food. And basically, like, your community is kind of like your safety net, but it's still not even safe in your community. You can get robbed, you can get shot through the fence. Like, all this wild, crazy stuff happens. The dads and like the older people take like a group of the kids out to like hunt. And that's another thing that they do that's kind of like school once you hit a certain age. You get to like go on these like hunting expeditions to like get obviously meat for like your group, but there's wild dogs everywhere that could attack. You obviously could run into like a different group of people hunting and they could kill you and steal your guns and your stuff that you've hunted. And like I said, there's no real like societal structures in place. There's no fire department anymore. There's no police. There's not an ambulance that can take you to the hospital. The police charge you money. Hi, Pippa. So they're always talking about how, like, oh, we could call the police on that, but we can't pay the fee for the police to come help us, basically. So, like, the way that people joke that they would rather drive themselves to the hospital than call an ambulance now because they can't afford the ambulance. Like, that's how they feel about the cops in this. And, like, there's, like, a bunch of fires that happen, like, all the time, just randomly. Like, obviously, people are setting some fires, but everything's so dry that, like, fires just happen and they just burn up like a ton of stuff, and there's no way to like put them out because that's like losing all of your clean drinking water. And so at the part that I'm at in the story, only like 100 pages in, Lauren has three younger brothers. Her next closest in age is Keith, and he actually left the compound, their like little neighborhood, which you're not supposed to do like at all. Like, Lauren expresses the idea of like, shouldn't we learn how to like live on our own and not be like tangled up in society? Because the other thing is that like most of the young girls just end up getting married and having babies, which, like, having a baby in this dystopian housecape sounds terrible. But most of the young girls in their community end up just getting married and having babies. And so she like expresses ideas that she wants to leave. She wants to figure out like what the world is like out there. She wants to like escape and go north. They live in California just outside of LA, and she wants to go to like Oregon or Washington and see if things are better there. But like, literally it's impossible. Like, no one ever does that. Like, they just can't. And so her brother ends up leaving, and they're totally okay with this 14-year-old boy just leaving. And he basically joins like a weird, crazy cult where they have like a bunch of stuff and they've like stockpiled stuff that they've stolen from people, but they don't know how to read or write. So they have all these cool things, but they're breaking all of their stuff because they can't figure out how to read an instruction manual. And so that's where Keith comes in, and Keith's reading shit to them. And that's where they're letting Keith stay, and they're giving Keith money for doing that. And so he comes back and he like gives them money and gives them guns and gives them food and all of this stuff that they obviously can't get like regularly. And so that's kind of where we're at in the story. So far it's like wild and crazy. Like, I feel like it's only going to get worse from here. And I think that homegirl Lauren, she's got something brewing. She's got something going. And one of my favorite things about this book has been hearing it from like a 16-year-old. Like, I feel like when you're 16, like, the way things are moving in your brain is so fast and so crazy. Like, she'll literally be like, I'm never gonna trust her again. And then like the next scene she's talking to her. And like, it's fine. Whereas like when you're like 12 reading a dystopian novel where the 16-year-old is super cool and super badass, like, no, we're getting like a very realistic depiction of a 16-year-old where like she doesn't know anything. She thinks she knows a ton of stuff and she doesn't know anything. But like, also the adults that are around her also low key don't know anything because they're making terrible choices. And she just kind of has to go with it. And so, yeah, I think that this book is super interesting. I feel like, yeah, to like have good discussion on what's going on in this book, you could go on for ever, like literally for weeks on like what all is gonna like be going down in this book. And for some reason in my own head, I thought Parable of the Sower was like a one and done. I thought it was a standalone. Like, no other books exist in this world. It's a cautionary tale. It's very much like 1984. Like, I was expecting it to be that. No, it's a duology. So looks like I'm gonna have to pick up Parable of the Talents after this. But fingers crossed I can finish it this weekend and then move into our last book from the TBR that we haven't gotten to yet. And that is Mountains Made of Glass. So this one is by Scarlett St. Clair. She's a skinny legend. I'm pretty sure the audiobook is 6 hours on regular speed. So if I do 2.5 speed, I think I can knock this one out in like an afternoon, like super, super easily. So overall, that is all of my reads for the month of June. So if you make it to the end of the video, go ahead and leave. You know what? If you make it to the end of the video, leave the fire emoji for all of the fires that are happening in Parable of the Sower that they can't do anything about because there's no fire department. So yeah, go ahead and leave the fire emoji if you made it to the end, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye. So overall, I did really enjoy this one. I think I gave it a 5 star. Yeah, wow. I really did enjoy. I really enjoyed this one. I need to stop acting surprised at the reviews I give books. Glad to be done with the Wild and Wrangled, not the Wild and Wrangled series. So after what the fuck was that book called? I'm forgetting every book character ever. I really, really did not like the FMC. No, I like the FMC. And now we are going to get into my current read. Sorry, I heard a man. I got scared. Okay, so hi Pippa. The next closest in her age is Keith, I think is his name. Hi, baby. Hi, honey. Yeah. What emoji should we do? What emoji should we do, Pippa? You're so happy. You're purring. I don't know if anyone can hear you purring. Hold on a bit. I hope it doesn't just pick up on static and it actually like picks up on her purring. We'll see.